If you were here in the 90s, you remember the yogurt shop murders. I know I do. The murders of these four girls gripped the city and changed Austin forever. There's a new series out about it, and y'all, it has taken me right back to that time and place. Today on CityCast Austin, I get to talk to the director of the series about the unsolved crime that changed my teenage years completely. It's Monday, August 4th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here with Margaret Brown, director and producer of the Yogurt Shop Murders documentary series. Hi, Margaret. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Before we even start, I have to tell you that I was there at South by Southwest at Zach Scott, and I saw the first episode. It's just so good, and it immediately took me back. It was immediate. So I grew up in Austin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was here in 1991, of course. And so for those listening, 1991, 4 teenagers were murdered at a yogurt shop that was then set on fire. They were called the Yogurt Shop Murders. Can you just summarize the case for us? Like, what is the story that you told in the series?
Well, there were 4 girls murdered in a yogurt shop on December 6, 1991. And this goes into sort of the web that event created and how it impacted the families and the city of Austin.
Like, period. For years, for decades, even.
Still is.
Yeah, still is.
It's part of the collective unconscious of Austin, and it's something you need to know to live here, I think. It's part of what makes the city the city.
Yeah, and I also think it really changed the city. It changed our identity. I want to share some of the Facebook comments on HBO's post about the series. Quote, "This is the case for me that I want to see solved." Another quote is, "This is a tragedy we will not forget." Another quote, "Forever a dark day for the Lanier Vikings, Burnett Sailors, and the city of Austin." Another quote, "The night that truly changed Austin." And I cannot, I genuinely, every single quote is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Why do you think this case is such a big deal for so many of us, for so many Austinites?
Well, I didn't live here then. I moved to Austin in the mid to late 90s. And I remember I think the billboards were up into the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Like they were up a long time. Yeah, maybe later than that. But
yeah,
I mean, I feel like it's sort of part of the collective unconscious of Austin, and I remember going to parties in the 90s and people would talk about it and everyone had a theory. And yeah, I remember that really vividly. So when I got asked to get involved, I mean, my first question was, what is the archival footage like? Because I wanted to know if it captured, what you experienced growing up here, like the flavor of Austin in the 90s is specific, right?
Yes.
So I knew that for this to be something I would want to work on, I had to know that the footage would reflect that. And I saw the footage, and that was sort of when I thought, oh, I can do this, because it brought it back, like you said.
Did you know about the case before you got here, or did you get here and you were like, holy shit, what happened?
I learned about it when I moved here. I think I learned about it from seeing the billboards and asking people. I mean, honestly, it's so in my mind that I don't even remember how I first heard of it, because I think it was just so everywhere that everyone knew about it. You couldn't escape it. There were so many twists and turns to that. And I would be at parties and people would just start talking about it, all the twists. So I heard about it sort of as like almost a ghost story or like a myth, even before I got to, before anyone ever asked me to make this, I've been hearing about it. I knew it was a good story.
Nice. Where did the idea come from?
It came from my manager who was talking to Emma Stone and Dave McCary, who have a company called Fruit Tree. And they approached me.
Yeah. The thing that struck me about your first episode was you focused a lot on the trauma that the murders cause for everybody. So the victim's siblings, the parents, the yogurt shop manager, the Austinites, the cops, I mean, it showed the overarching, all encompassing thing that this was in the city. I remember I was in high school and we had an
Mhm.
assembly about it.
Really?
It was all hands on
What
deck.
high school were you at?
I went to Manor High School, and I
Mhm.
just remember it happening. And then there was an assembly, and they called us all
Mhm.
in, and they were like, "This is
Oh,
a thing that's
man.
happened. We know a lot of you are working now. We know a lot of you have jobs. Here are some ways that you can be safe. Here are some things that you can."
Wow.
And then there was all this signage that they put all over our schools. And then on top of that, at the time, I worked at a flea market on 290. And after these murders, they stopped letting the girls have the later shifts. They stopped letting us walk to our cars by ourselves. They stopped letting us work shifts by ourselves. I mean, it changed the entire makeup
I
of
bet.
how you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And not just me, but how young girls in the city and surrounding cities moved through the world. And so, and at the time, when you're young like that, I don't understand. Like, I was looking for a why. I was looking, you know what I mean? Like, not only why did it happen to those girls, but oh no, this can happen to me. Like, I'm a girl too. Holy shit. Now my
Yes.
life has to change. My parents got a little stricter about how me going to the mall and where I was and checking in. Like, the reins got tightened across the
Mhm.
board. And so when I was watching the documentary, like I said earlier, it brought me back to that feeling of fear, like
Oh.
that little girl feeling of fear, like, oh no, that could be me and my friends. Now, mind you, I am Black. It was just like, oh no, I am a young girl that works a job after school. This could also happen to me. Holy shit.
Well, it's interesting you should say that when you said, well, I am Black, because this is for white girls, right? And I think for
Yeah,
white girls getting murdered is different than for Black girls getting
it
murdered.
is.
And some of the characters talk about that.
Yeah, my parents had a lot of not anger, but like they were scared for their daughters, but they were also like, if it were my daughters, would
Hmm.
they get this kind of response? Would the
Hmm.
world stop? Would the city stop if it was for Black girls? And so we were having really hard conversations in my house about that too. So, okay, we're in the 90s. These murders have happened. When you talk to people about going back and
Hmm.
what they were feeling in those moments, what were they telling you?
I think that a lot of this is about memory, right? It's about how we think about memory, how I thought so much making it. And we talked about it a lot, like the editors and the shooter. I mean, because I work with the same people over and over. And so
Mhm.
we go in really deep together, you know? And I started questioning, well, is that a real memory or did I construct that memory? And
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to ask family members, especially the parents,
Yeah.
because they've been the faces of this for over 30 years. And I've made a lot of films that are in some way about trauma, right? I mean, I usually push pretty hard for things, and this was like, I am not pushing these people. Like
Yeah.
they've been through
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
and they have so many things that are unresolved, and they've had to be the faces of it for so long. I felt them really deeply. I felt everyone really deeply, like John Jones and just like how much he went through, and Claire Huey, the filmmaker who's filming, and like how hard it was for her to make the film. And
Yeah.
there's like a ring of how this affected people in the city. Like you were telling the story about how, you know, this affected your high school and how girls were meant to feel. And and you know, I'm about the same age as the girls and you, and I have a lot of friends who were in high school with them, and they couldn't even believe I was working on this. People would be like, are you sure you want to make that? Like, that's going to be really hard to live in that world for 3 years.
Yeah. Seeing specifically John Jones, but also seeing the dad, and
Hmm.
forgive me, I can't remember his name, with his cowboy hat.
Bob,
Bob. I mean, every time I saw his face, I just wanted to hug him.
I know.
But I was also struck by just like the love and the way that they talk about their people that they've it's like that love is still there, that care is
Oh,
still
yes.
there,
Yes.
that dad like
I know.
protectiveness is still there. And I love that. I love that because it keeps people alive in this it's hard, it's really hard
Hmm.
way, but I mean it still haunts them. Even Mr. Jones, it's like you can tell that this man has been living with this his whole
Yes.
life. That
Yes.
trauma is still there. It's been years later, and so it's wild that everybody they all share that sadness, but in this
Hmm.
really lovely, sweet way, which sounds counterintuitive.
I know what you
But
mean.
yeah, it was really beautiful to watch play out in real time. So DNA played a huge role in the case, like including clearing two men who had been convicted of the murders. And they had like 200 people tested just in case they were a DNA match. And then they finally even found that there was an unknown male's DNA found in the youngest victim, Amy.
Hmm.
Um, how how were Austinites responding to this DNA information in real time?
I don't think that many people know about it. Like, I think that
Oh.
I think there's actually, I mean, I don't want to really spoil anything, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that, which we discuss in the show.
During the investigation, people in black, in quotation marks, were targeted as suspects. And essentially, all the weirdos were targeted. And like Austin, especially at that time, was full of weirdos.
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to hear, like, what was that attack like on Austinites, especially during a time when we were so steeped in this identity of being a
Hmm.
city for weirdos.
Well, I mean, you think about like, it's not just the weirdos. There's also like this sort of more traditional class here. There's politicians. There's like the whole cowboy class or culture that's like maybe, more of an old school kind of thing. I think there's a clash of all these different things in Austin, that Austin is not totally like that anymore, but all those contingents are still here.
Yeah,
But they're
yeah.
they're not like overwhelmingly like, like, I don't know, the shit kickers and the punks. Like, it's not like that anymore, like it maybe was in the early 90s, you know?
Yeah, for sure, for
And I
sure.
remember, like, even until really recently, there was like a black cowboy club on the east side where you would see like black cowboys riding around on
Mhm.
horseback. Like, I
Yep,
don't know
you
if
still
that's
see
still
it.
there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah. So I feel like there's all these subcultures in Austin that that I'm interested in, that I wanted to like. They're all there. That's all part of Austin, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love that you use the term shit kickers because that is absolutely something that was super, super prevalent in my life at that
Yeah. Oh
time.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, and I think that because we're such a big place now, people forget that we used to be kind of this sleepy little town. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
One of the overarching things that I felt at the time was like, here? How did this happen here? It was so violent. It was so unimaginable. Like the character of the crime, and there were all these false confessions, and all of this. Like sometimes in a moment, I would just remember feeling confused, and I
Hmm.
remember hearing adults around me be like, I remember hearing adults around me constantly ask the question like, it had, who was it? Why don't we know yet? It had to be somebody they
Yeah.
knew. Just
Yeah.
like kind of pointing fingers. And so
Right.
I'm
Hmm.
curious if you think this caused Austinites for a time to mistrust each other. Do you think it took away a little bit of our innocence as a city?
I mean, yes, I do. I mean, look, I wasn't here back then, but from the footage I have and from talking and seeing like Huck and Jones, who were the cops that felt all the pressure to solve it, both of
Yup.
them, I think I think it was like really hard to like get, they were getting close to the families, and everyone's like, why isn't this solved yet? And then the way Beverly Lowry talks about, the issue was that there was fire and water. Like, there was a fire, they set it on fire, and then the sprinklers came down, and then the fire department shows up and doesn't know their dead bodies there. So it's like
Yeah, they're
kind
just
of
trying to
the
put out a
perfect
fire.
crime. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then they think there's 3 girls, there ends up being 4, I mean, it's like a really that's like the first thing you need to know about this case, is that like it wasn't like a clean crime scene from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think also the other thing that people forget too is just like it was kind of playing out in real time. It was really interesting watching it play back because I remember the confusion, but then seeing it being like, oh,
Mhm.
that's right. That's right. They thought they were just responding to a regular fire. It's like I
Mhm.
totally forgot about those things. And
Mhm.
you mentioned the two police officers, and I'm curious if you think whether if this case changed the trust that Austinites had in the police department.
There's a
I
lot
don't
about that in the second episode, so I sort of want to
oh,
say.
I don't know. I feel like they were trying so hard, and I think that everybody was just coming from this from a point of like, if these were my daughters. And so it I think that's where this incredible pressure on these two cops
Yes.
was coming
Yes.
from. You mentioned this earlier. There were so many pieces of archival footage in the
hmm
documentary, and it's
hmm
like from the footage to the main detective involved the first night to 48 hours coverage, Claire's interviews and her footage and archival news clips. What was it like to find all of these records? Like, what was it like? How did you feel when you got all of this information?
Well, I didn't get it all at once. So when I got asked to do the project, I thought like if this is like a rich, if there's like really good archival material, then I think I want to make it. And then I got it and it was incredible. Like it looked like a David Lynch movie. It was so like the 90s, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it feels like a time capsule. And so I thought, okay, I can go to this. I can make like a David Lynch movie, but like a documentary. How cool, you know? And then I met the families and I was like, oh, fuck, I can't do that. Like, I
Yeah.
can't make something overly stylized while you're watching it and thinking, why are they so stylized? Like, I mean, I was still going to do something stylized, but I also knew that I needed to lean into the series kind of tells you what it is. And it was telling me like the emotion is more important than making some like an interview that looks like a neon sign. Like, you know, so
Right. Yeah.
it really affected how I went about like thinking about how I was going to make it, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. And when you approached the families, did you find that they were willing to talk, or did you find that they were more just like, no, not like, were you having to convince them to go back to that place again?
It was hard. Like some of the family members, you know, before I came aboard, the production had already talked to them and they were already available. But like Barbara, whose both her daughters died, like
Yeah.
it took me until really recently to get her to do an interview. It was extremely difficult because she'd been the face of it for so long. And it's also really hard to ask someone who's been through so much. And like with the parents in general, I was like, to Sean and Angie, like you know, Sean is Amy's older brother and Angie is his wife. And it was a lot easier for me to ask things of them than it was of their parents
Right.
because it's just different with parents, I think. I
Of
mean, I don't want
course.
to say, of course, everyone's different, but it was really like if Barbara says no, I'm going to be like, okay, Barbara said no.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm going to listen. Like usually on a movie, I push. In
Yeah.
this case, like, no. I was like, all right, okay, I hear you, which is
Yeah.
not my usual MO as a documentary filmmaker. Like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I just like, I could feel the pain and it just didn't feel like the move.
Right, right. So you're learning in real time how to
Yeah.
connect with these people and how to get them to break down their walls. And,
But
no,
sometimes I didn't even want to try to get them to break down their walls because I was like, what is the cost benefit analysis here? Like, if this person's
yeah,
going to be in bed for a month after I talk to them, like, yeah, I think I'll skip that, you
I
know?
love that. Yeah, I love that. And this is coming out in installments. So Austinites will be exposed to it over time, right? And so
Yes.
I'm just really curious why you wanted to release it this way as opposed to all at once so people could binge the whole thing. I'm
Well,
curious.
that's not my choice. That's HBO.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's
That's
just how HBO does it. But I have to say, it's the right call. It gets released like every week at 10 p.m. on HBO. So it's an
yeah, okay.
installment.
I think it's the a really good way to do it just because it kind of mimics how it was real. I think it's kind of a really smart way to put people in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. So now the series premiered at South by Southwest in March at Zach Scott with Richard Linklater.
Yes.
And so the feeling in that room was just I mean after I watched it that day, I think I messaged my boss and was like, I need a break. Like I need like I need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go
Yeah. That was
home.
heavy. I know.
It was heavy, but it was so good. It was so good. I was sitting next to a woman that was on my right who was from out of town. She had never heard of the yogurt shop murders. And so I was ear hustling and listening to her conversation right, like immediately after, right before your Q&A started. And she was like, how did I not know about this? This is insane. What was going on? Oh my, like just like hearing her hear it for the first time was really awesome. And then
Interesting.
a couple of other people that were like in front of me, like I could, just like wiping tears and just like being taken back. And it felt like this collective
Yeah.
experience for people both that had been here and remember
Hmm.
it, and then new
Hmm.
people kind of validating the horror of it and the trauma
Yeah.
of it. I after I saw it, I called up some friends of mine and I was like, you will never believe what I just watched. And then I had like a 2.5 hour long conversation about like,
Hmm.
oh my God, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Do you remember this? I'm like, yes. And that is all because of it changed our city. It changed our identity. We could no longer call ourselves this sleepy little thing. We're kind of like nothing bad happens here. And I think
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we were all under that curtain. You know what
Yeah.
I
You
mean?
were
Of
living in that
thinking,
bubble. Yeah.
yeah, we were definitely living on that bubble, and it was burst. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious about what you were feeling in that moment and being a part of that local reaction
It
at
was
that
incredible.
screening. Yeah.
Well, I also because in this moment right now in the media landscape, like things live like, all my films have been theatrical. And
Yeah.
so you get to experience it with an audience, which is incredible. But this was like the only I mean, Rick Linklater was like, can we do a screening at AFS of all four and like do it again? And I was like, yes, because there's something about that collective feeling. I totally felt it too. Like it was so powerful. And just a group of people feeling it together was
Yes.
incredible. And
Yes.
like that's sort of why you're a filmmaker, right? I mean, there's another flip to that, which is that like, if your film is on HBO or Netflix, millions of people watch it all over the world. So for my last film, that was insane. Like insane. But you can't take away that feeling of being in a theater with people and how there is a thing there. So
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I could feel it.
Yeah.
Often when I'm at South by Southwest, I'm at screenings because people are kind of like on a schedule or they're trying to get from one thing to the other. A lot of times they leave. They'll
Yeah.
leave a
Yeah.
screening or they'll like try to
Yeah.
sneak out really quick. There was none of that.
Yeah.
Everybody was in their seat, sat from start
Yeah.
to finish. And that's also rare. I think there's something really captivating about this story that's over and above the salacious murder of it. I think it really is this uniting thing that's like that could be my blank, my sister, my niece, my
Yeah.
daughter. But you know what I mean?
That is what we were going for because we felt the universality of it. Like we felt like because it was so hard to navigate through the darkness making it, like A24 had to pay for us to get therapy. Like the crew was like
Wow.
losing their shit. Like people wanted to quit. And because it's so heavy.
Right,
And
yeah.
and the way we made it, we went into that because that's really the only way to get through is to see it, I think. This is someone who goes to therapy, obviously.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
but I think that like you have to look at it. And we had to sit with people to help, understand what it was like for them to live in their trauma of this unresolved thing that affected them so deeply. So, because we all experience grief and loss in life, and this is a very extreme example of that. But you were completely right. I feel the same way as you do that, like, it could be any of us, and so there's something about like the last shot of the first episode. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a very long shot, and that was a very distinct choice because you really have to sit with that.
Yeah. That was heavy. It was really heavy. But you're right. I think that I don't know. I think anytime someone is approaching something as heavy as this, I want you to throw me in it. And this is what this does. If you're not going to throw me in it, why are we doing it? And so
Exactly.
I love that you're just thrown in the deep end. So what do you want people to learn from your series?
What do I want people to learn? Um, I think I'm interested in. I mean, there's also just the facts of the case. It's a crazy case, and I think there's something about like looking into something and just like you said, the woman sitting next to you, she was like, how did I not know? That's like
Yeah.
sort of that of it all.
Yeah.
And then there's also just like, I got really interested in the different ways that people process grief, because we've all, like, you can't live on this planet and not have a close connection to grief. There's like, it's coming for us all. And so to me, it's instructive in how do I want to be as a human.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Do you think the murders will ever be solved?
Girl, you're going to have to just watch.
I love that. Okay, I am going to watch it. This is great. I'm really glad that you wanted to talk to me about it because I've been chomping at the bit. So, Margaret, just thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for asking such good questions. And no, seriously.
And thank you for making this series. Like, just from someone that's from this city, and it changed my life so much. I was just really appreciative to see the compassionate way that it was done. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to the Yogurt Shop Murders documentary series in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and y'all, I really, really want to hear what y'all think about this series. Of course, subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Austin member at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.